Hi folks, and welcome to another Saturday morning Samoflange. I'm Matt, and it's just me. You know, I think I may not have a host this year. Yeah, we may try that. It is kind of boring though, just talking to yourself though. It's much nicer when you have a co-host to share things with. But of course, you don't get to do unique ideas like this one. So I guess there's a big trade-off here. So the topic today, as you can see by the title, is top 5 game shows I wanted to be on as a kid. Now, I don't know if I'm going to name it that, lengthy, give it that lengthy a title, but that's exactly how this came about. And you see, as a kid, I used to watch a bunch of game shows all the time. I used to be like, man, I really want to play that game show. I want to be on that game show one day. And I have been watching a few older videos and some newer videos too, and just looking at all these old game shows and going, man, I really wish I would have been on there. Now, as an adult, there are different game shows I guess I would want to be on, I guess. I don't know. I don't really watch game shows at all, really. But kids' game shows, for some reason, there's just something fun about them. They're just so much, the ones I'm picking, they're just so much fun. Now, I do not have any honorable mentions. In fact, I barely got 5. My 5th one came to me last minute. I said, well, I can only think 4. Maybe I'll just do a top 4 for the first time ever, because I can't think of one I wanted to be on as a kid. And then all of a sudden, I think it was in the middle of the night, and I was feeding one of the girls. And I don't know, I was just thinking about all these game shows I used to love as a kid. And then one popped in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, not only does it deserve to be on the list, but it's I can't believe I forgot it, because it's not much of a game, but I always wanted to be on it when I was a kid. So it made the list a lot easier to get. Now I'm going to talk about this one first. My number 5 is the Bozo Show, but not just the Bozo Show, the Cups. If you remember, there was this, but the buckets, I guess it was, say, the bucket game or whatever. For anyone who is my age or older, you perhaps remember there was a clown called Bozo the Clown, on WGN. And Bozo the Clown was someone you would watch in the morning right before you went to school, or in the mornings during the summers. You just loved watching Bozo. He did a bunch of stupid little skits. It was on WGN in Chicago. I think they took place there. I don't think it was live. I think they were all pre-recorded. But it was Bozo. It was a big white clown, blue suit, big red hair that just kind of shot out, had a big bald spot on him. And you love Bozo. And then he had his friends, Cookie, which was, Cookie was on there. And I remember when the actor who was playing Cookie was getting old and he was having heart problems, they had some other ones on there too. One that just blew a whistle, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head. And then there was Wizzo, who came every once in a while. He was the clown, kind of like magician. He kind of looked like an Indian-looking clown, but he was a lot of fun. And, man, I can't remember what that other one was, who took the place of Cookie for a little while, because Bozo told the kids one day that Cookie's heart was feeling sick, and so he had to take some time off. But he'll be back soon, boys and girls. I remember that. Now, the sad thing is, you can't really find many good tapings of the Bozo Show, and they didn't, I don't know, I'm sure there's someone who has a complete set or whatever, but we used to watch the Bozo Show all the time. It was so much fun. I still remember some of the jokes. Like at the very end, there'd be this grand march, and in the grand march, Cookie would always want to lead the grand march. That was when he'd march the kids out of the circus tent, the production studio. And so Cookie would always come up to him and say, Bozo, I want to lead the grand march this time. Bozo's like, nope, I lead the grand march. However, Cookie, if you can do this, I'll let you lead the grand march. And he always outsmarted Cookie, because Cookie's like, it can't be done. And he's like, yes, it can. And one of them happened to be, he said, well, he took up this phone book. He said, Cookie, if you can rip this phone book in half with your bare hands, he said, I'll let you lead the grand march. And so Cookie takes the book, and he goes, okay. And he tries to, he's trying to rip it apart, and he obviously can't. He's like, all right, so, but too bad. He went, but Bozo, no one can do that. He said, sure, I can do it. It's easy. He went, oh, okay, well, then you do it. He went, okay, I will. And so he takes it one page at a time and starts tearing it in half, like, wah, 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 wah. And Cookie's like, oh, Bozo. And he's like, see you later, Cookie. Who's the Bozo now? He didn't say that, but he should have. And then, it's funny how a guy named Bozo was the smartest guy in the tent, so smartest clown in the circus tent. But anyway, he starts leading them away. He's waving by the fans, and then everyone's saying, bye to the TV as they're exiting out of the building. And you wanted to be on that show, but there's like a 2-year waiting list, I think, to be on that show or something, or 4-year waiting list, I heard, at a time. I mean, super popular, and a super little theater or studio that they shot in. But they do all these gags and everything. And then every once in a while, they bring a kid from the audience and then have him play the bucket game. So in the bucket game, there are these 6 buckets. And you took these ping pong balls and you had to toss the ping pong balls into the buckets. Of course, sometimes, they're ping pong balls. They'll bounce around, they'll bounce off, they'll hit the rim. They won't make it in. And if you made it to bucket number 6, you got a brand new Sven bicycle. And I didn't know what a Sven bicycle was. I do now. There was actually, when I was working in Phoenix, there was a Sven bicycle shop. I was like, shut up. I went into that shop, not because I like bicycles, but because I wanted to see a Sven bicycle. Because I used to want one as a kid. I was like, wow, they just look like really nice bicycles. But they are. They're really nice bicycles. And when he said, a Sven bicycle, and everyone would applaud, as Cookie would come out riding the bicycle. And you'd be like, oh, man, I'd do anything for a Sven bicycle. And the thing is, though, what does it matter, right? Well, every once in a while, you would be one of the kids who could play from home. You'd write in to Bozo, and you'd put your letter into this big old drum, and they'd turn the drum to, just spin it around, and then pull some names out of the drum every game. And they said, who's playing? The child playing at home with you is, and they gave the names, and you're like, oh man, I really hope my kid wins. And it would suck if, you're like, oh, really hope my kid wins, and your kid's like 3, and he can't even get the first bucket. But anyway, everyone got at least one bucket. One bucket, they got like a little prize, nothing big, but the prizes got bigger. I don't remember what 1 through 5 was, but I remember 6 was the grand prize, the Sven bicycle. But they got a bunch of neat stuff, and Bozo would give it to them. Sometimes they make it to 3, 4, sometimes 5, and then miss at 6. It was exciting to watch as a kid. And if they missed it on the first one, because the first one I remember was just close enough to where you could just drop it in the bucket. Well, sometimes the little kids, they didn't know what they were doing. They missed the bucket. He went, oh, wait. He went, this is a square ping pong. This doesn't count. He'd make the same joke every time, and everyone would laugh. And then he'd give him another ping pong ball to help him drop it in the bucket. So he'd at least win something. So that was nice. But it'd suck if you were the play-at-home kid, right? When the little pipsqueak's up there, like, no, don't give me the little kid, give me the older kid. Because even the kid playing at home would get a Sven bicycle. And I actually knew someone, Wes, who's been on my podcast before. Wes actually got to be one of the play-at-home kids one day on the game, and he said that he already knew what he'd won because they'd already shipped his goods to him before the episode aired. So I guess that answered my question. They don't do it live; they record these way in advance, and so Wes got the package, and he already knew how far the kid was going to go, which is kind of a bummer when you think about it. Of course, me as a kid, I would have been like, well, maybe they're just holding back the Sven bicycle so I'll know. That would be kind of weird, though, that you got all these presents from the Bozo show with a Sven bicycle and going, what's this for? And you've been all excited, but then later on you'd have seen the outcome of the show. They should have gotten their logistics down a little bit more. Like, wait till the show airs and then mail out that person's winnings. But I understand. They wanted to get it out straight to them, and so they did. Oh, man. But so I totally wanted to play the Bozo bucket game back when I was a kid. I remember at our church, they came up with a bucket game for us because the Bozo show was pretty big back then. And a lady had gone to KFC and gotten a bunch of empty KFC buckets, chicken buckets. And she laid them out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when I saw it, I was like, yes. And she laid it out pretty, they were pretty far apart. But I was pretty tall, and so my reach was pretty good. So I would lean over and I could hit just about, the first 3 buckets were, nothing to me. I could almost drop them in, all 3. And then the 4th one I had to toss a little bit. The 4th and 5th one I had to toss a little bit more. And the 6th one I nailed. I nailed all those buckets. Now, the buckets in the Bozo show were probably a little smaller and tinier. But, man, I got to play that bucket game, I remember as a kid. And I was thinking, I made it to bucket 6. Yes! It wasn't a Sven bicycle. It was just some candy is what I won. Because it was kind of like the church rendition of Halloween. We called it Reformation Day back in the day. But that's how they give kids candy without having to dress up or anything. And but we would. I remember I hit all those buckets. Like, man, I'm totally ready for the big time now. Oh, if they brought me on the Bozo show, I wouldn't miss. Now here's the deal: if I was on the Bozo show at that age, would I have gotten every bucket? Yeah, I think so, dadgummit. I think I would have. I think I would have been riding a spin bicycle right now. Well, probably not now. It would have been too little for me, but I'd been riding one back in the day. And I always think about that. But that was just some nice thoughts. And I mean, that was the one I'd forgotten about until in the middle of the night. I was like, oh, the Bozo Show. Okay, now the other one. I would have wanted to been on it when I was a kid, even though I wouldn't have made it for it all. But I think maybe I would have been a teenager back then when this came out. I can't remember. Either way, American Gladiators. Who didn't want to be on that show back when it came out? Folks, if you don't recall, American Gladiators was a show where you'd have a team of people doing these unbelievable stunts, a guy and a girl, and they would go up against the American Gladiators. And they're these, steroid busting people who were, obviously, there for their looks, not there for their talent. I remember Jim and I was an easy pushover. You could always beat him if he was anything. He was easy to beat, but Thunder or something was really hard, or Nitro, or whatever their names were. They had these wonderful names. And some of the challenges were really hard. You'd be in a metal ball trying to score across the way, but the American Gladiators, who play this game every day, that's the thing. It wasn't that they were big and buff. It was that they had more experience in playing these games, which is why they were good at it. They had rock climbing, and that scared me because, they'd get 10 seconds, I think, above the Gladiator, and then the Gladiator would have to catch up with them. And you'd be screaming like, "Oh no! Don't let the Gladiator get you!" And when he got the person's shoe, you'd be screaming too at home. And then of course you had to run the gauntlet at the end and try to get through all the gladiators there. You'd bust through those little paper mache walls, and sometimes there'd be a gladiator behind there, sometimes there wouldn't. And they'd smash you up against the wall real quick and then let you go on because you had to finish the course in like a minute or whatever. Man, that was so much fun. I remember doing the Q-tip challenge. I say Q-tips. There were these giant shaped Q-tips, with these big, foam boxes on each end, cylinder boxes, and you try to knock the other person off their pedestal. I remember, I actually got to play this game. They had a blow-up pedestal with two Q-tip jousting sticks, and they had it at our college for spring break. It was some kind of spring break thing, because our spring break was very short back in the day. Now they give people a whole week for spring break and kids a whole week for Mardi Gras, or maybe half a week for Mardi Gras. But back in the day, they used to split it. We got half a week for Mardi Gras and half a week for spring break. So to kind of make up for that, those first couple of days before spring break, they do some spring break stuff, like have a big mud ball tournament or water war or whatever in the park or on the grounds. And I remember one day they got all these blow-ups and things, and you were doing them. One was a race again, when you race, see how far you get, where there's you were strapped with a rubber band, and you were trying to race as far down this path as you could, and they'd mark where you were, see where the last place you touched before you fell off. And man, if you could get far, you would be slingshotted back. It was really funny to watch. I tried doing that, but I just did not have it because that thing was tight after a while, and so I kept slipping and falling off before I could even touch the ground, and I made pitiful performances there. But that wasn't American Gladiators. The American Gladiator portion was that Q-tip challenge with the little jousting sticks. I was like, okay, I can do this. So I got up there, and I remember there's this guy who's beating everyone, and I got up there, and I mean, he swung at me, and I ducked, and he swung too hard and lost his balance, and I just knocked him down. And then every guy that went up there, I was just beating one after the other. And then I'd be taunting the crowd because everyone was cheering against me. And I'd be like, come on, who can take me? And I'm flinging that thing around and getting ready. And my friends are there going, wow, Matt's really good at this jousting. And man, I was king of the jousting. And like they'd bring up person after person would think they could beat me. And I would just take them down, each and every one. I mean, I was really good with that. The rule was, as long as you won, you could stay up there. Well, I was getting tired. It'd been a while. I'd been up there for at least 40 minutes, maybe even an hour. I remember thinking, man, I need to get to class. I can't stay here much longer. And there was this little girl. I remember, like tiny little, frail little girl that got up there, and everyone's booing me. You're going to hit down a girl? I was like, all right. I said, ooh, an easy one. Here we go. And she can hardly just move that big jousting stick. She can't, it's just, she's moving her whole body just to kind of pick it up. And so I thought it'd be funny, and I let her hit me, and she hit me so lightly. and I just dropped my stick and just fell to the ground. Everyone cheered. Everyone was so happy that I'd finally been defeated. But I was like, yeah, I don't care. I have to go to class anyway. But I remember I stayed there for about 40, 50 minutes before I, had to leave and make the class. But, man, it felt good. Now, could I have made it on American Gladiators back in college? Heck no! Not even jousting. Like I said, those guys had all the experience. It wasn't that they were muscled, but it was that they had all the experience, which is why they were so good at those games. Oh, man, there's another American Gladiator game where you had to run through these little areas trying to shoot a target, and they were shooting tennis balls at you. Oh, that was scary. Now, if they ran out of tennis balls, you won. Most times they'd hit you on the first or second stop, but you had to aim and try to hit the target above them. And that's the thing, people didn't aim that much. Of course, some of those things were the crossbow, and I can't remember what the other ones were. It was kind of hard to get there, but the closer you got there, the better chance you had at hitting the thing. But if you didn't, then you could make it off of the maze and still win. But it was really hard to win that game because most people get hit with a tennis ball. Anyway, just thought about that one. All right, so number 3. Number 3 is a little bit of a cheat. This is a kid's game today, but it was a kid's game back in the day. But I never watched it because it was in the UK. And I've just recently been turned on to it. I think a buddy of mine told me about it from the UK, and I was like, what's this? And so I watched The Crystal Maze. Folks, type Crystal Maze in the YouTube and watch a few of them. They're from it's a show in the UK, and it looks awesome. It's young and old, and they're all together going through 4 different areas. And they're just realms. There's the Aztec realm, there's the ocean realm, there's the future realm, and then there's the medieval realm. And I can't remember, the American version got rid of the ocean realm, and they made the Chinese realm or whatever. I can't remember, but they didn't do ocean. The American version. It plays on Nickelodeon, I think, or Cartoon Network. It plays on Nickelodeon, I think. Let's say Nickelodeon. It plays on some kid's show. Who cares? But it is out. But the newer ones that's out right now, it's okay, but I don't really like it that much. But the old ones just were so fun and so inventive. Some of the games were really smart too. You could pick from a puzzle game, from a skill game, from a mystery game, from and then he'd run around the castle. The guy I knew was the bald-headed guy. I know they had a few other hosts, but the bald-headed guy did it for like 4 seasons, I think. And he would just had so much energy. He'd run around and he'd talk to the camera and play his harmonica sometimes when the challenges were going on. He'd talk about his mumsy. And he was just zany, man. And he would just run to the next place and run here and run there. And he was cheering for him. And a lot of times he was even helping him out, which a lot of I know the American host isn't. But he would be helping him out because every time you won one of these challenges, you would get a crystal. It was this glass, cylinder or, glass ball. And it was really cool. And I bet it was really heavy. But you had to do all these different challenges to do it. You had to solve puzzles or mysteries or, assemble these blocks in a certain order. I mean, really inventive stuff. The ideas that they had for it. One was, I don't know if you know those little plastic mazes the handheld. It's a plastic little maze with a little metal ball in it. You're trying to move the maze back and forth with your hands, trying to get in the center, right? You can buy 10 for $1 at Dollar Tree. These little plastic marble mazes or whatever, metal mazes. Well, they had a big one you had to stand up on. They had a rope you could hold on to, but you had to move your feet and move the ball around a maze like that. Now, that was ingenious. I was like, that is so smart. And they do a ton of stuff like that. And each world had its own different themes and its own different, skills and ideas. And of course, Ocean was water-based. A lot of them were water-based ones. And if you completed it, you got this little crystal, which gave you 5 seconds in the big crystal maze, which is just this big air vent where they blow a bunch of glitter pieces around, but I'll get to that in a minute. So you were going around getting 5 seconds of time every time you won one of the mini challenges. But if you did not get out of the room in time, all the skills were timed. And just as say from argument, whether you made it in time, you got the crystal in time, if you stayed too late in a room, if you lost yourself in the competition, he'd lock you in, and then they'd have to pay a crystal to get you out if they wanted to. They could just leave you there if they wanted to. I haven't seen anyone get left. I haven't watched that many episodes, but in all the episodes, people usually buy them out. I've seen episodes people end up with only 5 seconds of time, and that's pathetic. And then other people end up with like 40 seconds of time or whatever. And I think the record he said once, it was a long time ago, was 55 seconds in the crystal maze. So that's the thing. The whole time you're trying to get all these little crystals to go into the crystal maze, which is really smart itself. It's a bunch of glitter, like silver leaflets or whatever, flying around. You're trying to grab as many as you can in the time you earned. Now, any gold ones are going to count for a point. Oh no, I got the hiccups now. But anyway, any silver are going to count as a minus point. So you want to get more gold than silver. And if you get 100 gold, that's after your silver's taken out, then you get a prize. And the prize was always some kind of trip or something like that. But either way, man, I don't care. I just talked to one of my buddies in the UK, Luke from Down from the Attic. And he was like, oh man, yeah, as a kid, I wanted to be on there too. I was like, are you kidding me? I would have been right there next to the television with you going, oh, I want to be on that show. Now, they made a board game to the Crystal Maze, but I have to agree with Luke. It looks kind of pathetic and doesn't hold a candle to what the real Crystal Maze TV show was about. Either way, though, so much fun it looks like. Check it out on YouTube, The Crystal Maze. That is my number 3. So, my number 2, this was kind of hard to do for a while, and then I thought about it. I was like, no, I can figure it out. Number 2 is Double Dare. Oh, that's how I fell in love with Mark Summers. Mark Summers now is on Food Network every once in a while. He's like a big-time producer, and you'll see him sometimes behind the scenes of Food Network. But Mark Summers, to me, he's the man of Double Dare. Double Dare was a kid's game show where you dared someone if you didn't know the answer. Then they double dare back to you for double the points, and maybe you were really smart and knew the answer, and you were just faking. That never happened. Because after that, so they'd say dare, you say double dare, and then they go physical challenge. And the physical challenge was always some kind of zany thing involving slime or water or some kind of messy thing with eggs you had to do really quick. And if you did it in time, you won the points or whatever. And it was such a fun show. And at the end, you had 1 minute to go through this the gauntlet of just the different things, stepping on soda things, as swimming through Jell-O or Coke or whatever. I don't know what they were on. But diving into a huge hot fudge sundae and picking out flags. You're trying to find flags and get all the way through to win big screen TVs and stuff. And my brother said he read an autobiography by Mark Summers who said that the whole studio smelled because the food would sit under hot lamps and melt and soak. And sometimes those baked beans were old baked beans and they smelled, and it just smelled awful. Sometimes they were moldy. And you're like, ooh, they were in, he said it was really unsanitary conditions back then. But it was the 80s. No one cared. And that someone actually slipped and hurt themselves, and then they realized, oh my gosh, we could get sued. And the kid who slipped, his dad was a lawyer. And they asked him, he said, hey, what can we do to, help y'all out? And the lawyer looked at the big screen TV. He went, I want the big screen TV. And they said, you got it. They gave him the big screen TV because he was just caught up in the game show, not his son's well-being. But I want to read that one day. But anyway, Double Dare is a show that I always wanted to be on as a kid. I was always mad at the kids. I felt they were stupid with not getting the flags on time and not doing the things. Like, come on, what is taking you so long? Hurry, go, 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 go. It felt like they were tired or laughing or just goofing off. I was like, do you not know? You don't have that much time left to go. One of the last things you had to do was a maze, which had chocolate syrup in it for some reason, because why not? And so they'd be slipping and sliding on the tubes. It's like, man, I'd be pulling myself. I'd be trying to get there as fast as I could. Just to get that last flag. Some people would make it. Very rarely do people make it through, but when you did, you were just like so happy. But the end game, man, big payoff there. I loved Double Dare. Double Dare did have a board game. It was kind of a board game. It was an activity game where they do quizzes, and then you would go back and forth on doing physical challenges. But the physical challenges, the pieces to it were really cheap. The foam was really cheap. I mean, everything was cheap, and it didn't feel... When we were so excited when we got that game, we're like, no way! We kept the quiz cards, and we just made up our own challenges after that, because the challenges that came with the game were just lame. I mean, lame and cheaply made. And Double Dare, that version that they had was just such a dumb... One was that you had to throw these little... They weren't even styrofoam. They were these light little foamy... almost air foam where you pool toys, something like that. They cut out pieces in a circular thing, and you had to loop it onto someone's wearing a hat with a stick on top of it, and you had to loop it onto the hat with a stick. But the thing was, those little styrofoam foam pieces did not fly. you could throw it as hard as you wanted to, but it just didn't have any umph, didn't have any weight to it, so it would just kind of float down to the ground. So you basically just had to drop it. Even dropping it on someone's head was hard because the thing would just blow off. So totally lame. A lot of the cheap plastic stuff would break. It was just a big disappointment. But like I said, I think we kept the quiz cards and then used the quiz cards, and then everything else we did, we just made up games along the way. But we would play Double Dare on our own just with those quiz cards and nothing else. And so Double Dare is definitely one that I would have wanted to be on. But the number one, the numero uno, is my man, J.D. Roth. Fun House. Holy cow. In Fun House, you did like a short quiz show, and the winner got to go into the Fun House. Fun House, and if people who were in the 90s, I think this was called Curse of the Temple. It's basically the same theme, just temple themed. But this one was just a big fun house. You had to go through crazy bridges, ball pits, swings, and just move to different areas of the board to collect. I think you were collecting flags, I know in the temple, the Curse of the Golden Temple or whatever it's called, you had to get coins, which was really cool. I'll admit that was really cool, but I didn't watch that back in the day. I was like, this is a Funhouse ripoff. And so I didn't watch it. But I remember my little brothers loved it. My wife remembers that, so she really loved whatever that was called. But for me, Funhouse is where I wanted to be. Man, I love J.D. Roth. I remember when the TV station gave him his own little TV movie, and I don't remember what, but I remember they crossed their arms, and that meant, forever. And it was about him growing up with a best friend and everything. But we watched it because it was starring J.D. Roth, and I don't know what happened to J.D. Roth. But man, that show, and I remember Tiny was his co-host, and Tiny was a big guy, it was a joke. His name was a joke. But Tiny would hide out in these lockers, and one of the Funhouse things, you had to open up all the lockers to see if you could get the flag or whatever. And Tiny would be in one of those lockers, and he'd hit you with silly string the whole time. The simple days, man. That's why people love the 80s so much. We had fun stuff like that. Fun stuff. Who gets to hit you with silly string these days? But, we wanted to go on Funhouse so much. And I think you got a flag and you tag in. But tagging in was stupid because when you tag in, you're just wasting time trying to move up and down. And people would skit and skirt around the bridge, or there's a shaky little area you have to go across. But that Funhouse was so cool. And that would have been the number one place I would have wanted to go on. Because, how would I have done, by the way? I didn't mention how would I have done on Double Dare. I think I would have rocked Double Dare. Okay? I think I would have rocked Double Dare. I think Crystal Maze I would have sucked at, because a lot of those thinky puzzles, now I think I do pretty good, but as a kid, I wasn't that smart, to figure out some of that stuff. Some of that stuff's really hard. And some of the challenges were really hard. They just weren't made for kids. I think I do maybe okay on Crystal Maze, but I don't know. That'd be too much pressure for me. Double Dare, I would have killed it. I would have won it all. And Funhouse, yeah, I think I would have done well too. I think Funhouse, those kids just waited. I would have been running through that. At top breakneck speed, try to get to those spaces. Those kids seem to be like taking their time, walking around. I was like, no, man, gun it. You need to go. Because when the time was up, J.D. Roth would tell you to stop, and you'd be in the maze, and just you'd have to make it out of the fun house. And he'd count up all your flags or whatever, and there were these cheerleaders who would be cheering for whoever, won. What were they called? I can't remember. But front runners. But anyway, the cheerleaders just cheered for you regardless, and you'd win different prizes. But I think I would have done well in Funhouse too. So Bozo Show would have killed it. Double Dare would have killed it. Funhouse I think I would have killed it. American Gladiators and Crystal Maze probably wouldn't have done as well, but still would have loved to have gone to any of those. So those are my top 5 game shows I wanted to be on as a kid. Now, if I was to do this with Mikey or CJ even, I guarantee you there'd be 3, maybe even 4, maybe all 5 would be crossover, because any kid from the 80s I think would have a very similar list than me. If you're from the 90s, you're going to have that temple, I can't remember what it's called right now. A billion people are going to put in the comments though. But, and I'm going to know by the time this podcast is over because I'm going to go look it up. But anyway, I know people would pick that. I know my wife would pick that anyway. But let me know in the comments, what would be a game show that you always wanted to be on as a kid? Are there any of mine that you agree with, or are there more that I missed from a kid in the 80s that you said, Matt, what about this one? Don't pick no 90s show. I'll give you an honorable mention. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? That was a 90s one. I really wanted to be on that show. I really did. How would I have done at it? I think I would have done okay. Not the best, but I would have done okay because I loved that computer game back in the day. And then you got a free trip anywhere in the 48 continental states. Not counting Alaska and Hawaii because that's expensive. But that would have been a lot of fun. So I'm going to bump Bozo Show. Even though I love the Bozo Show, that's more of a kiddie game. I'm putting Where in the World's Carmen Sandiego number 5. Woo, on the spot change there. All right, folks, I'm going to go now. See you next time on Saturday Morning Samoflange.